I think most of the core values in the international human rights framework have come to be shared across cultures. So as values, not always implemented, but shared as values. I think when it comes to, say, a value like torture, there isn't anybody who I know of who advocates torture as a positive value in any culture, but there are certainly plenty of places where torture is actually practiced. And one way to square that is to say it wasn't torture. And another way to square it is to say it's torture, but it's an exceptional circumstance. Slavery would be another example that nobody defends, but which is actually very prevalent around the world with different names attached to it, or people who just violate the norm against slavery, saying that, I can get away with it and I'm going to do it. But usually people would say this is not slavery, it's voluntary. So culturally, though, I think there are a couple of areas, maybe 3 areas, where there really is a lot of substantial disagreement. One of them is about religious freedom. So I think the Western idea of religious freedom, which is that we, normatively at least, that we respect, especially the American idea, which is distinctive even in the West, that we respect every belief that presents itself to us as a religious belief. If somebody says, my set of beliefs are a religious belief, we usually in the United States take that as granted. We don't say, is it a religion or is it a superstition or something like that, that they all deserve respect. That view is not held, I would say, in the mainstream of the Islamic world. There are, of course, the Islamic world is extraordinarily diverse itself, but in recent years, I would say a very powerful voice in the Islamic world is a voice that says there is only one God and there is one truth about that God, and the other religious beliefs may be permitted to exist but are not to be respected as an equally dignified and honorable commitment on the part of the holders of that belief. And that same view is held by some communities in the Christian world and some communities in the Jewish world. Not the mainstream, but I would say that in the Islamic world that the fundamentalist points of view are quite powerful in a number of countries, and form the mainstream in a number of countries. So religion is an area of real cultural or international disagreement, and I think the role of women is another area of very strong disagreement in which, and that's connected to sexuality as well, but I think there are lots of cultures in which the idea of women being truly equal to men in their public role, in their social role, in their ability to express themselves sexually and things like that, that idea is not widely accepted. I think that's true probably in most of the world, as a matter of fact, throughout Asia, Africa, the Middle East, and many more traditional parts of Europe. And then the third area where I think there's quite a bit of cultural disagreement really has to do with the zone of political freedom. So I think in the United States, because we have such a kind of meta-stable political system which survives when we have economic disasters, it survives when we lose wars overseas, it survives when we have domestic disorder. Nobody in the United States is really advocating a different political system, a monarchy or a military rule or something. We can't think of another system. So the political system is quite stable. It means that when people advocate crazy political ideas and say, crazy things, it doesn't matter that much. And so we have a very broad scope of freedom of speech, freedom of association, Our First Amendment freedoms are bigger than they are probably in any other country. But in a lot of countries that feel themselves to be more insecure, there's a strong public support for more limitation on political freedoms than we have here. And so that would be a third area, I think, of cultural disagreement.